Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our session this evening. My name is Helen Wangui. I'll be with you this evening as we hear from Cheryl Mwangi about parenting, intentional parenting post-COVID-19. So as it starts us off, I want to just be able to hear from you from the chat section. How has your parenting experience been during for those of us who are parents, let me say categorically, those of us who are parents, how has your parenting experience been during the whole COVID period? Maybe your highlight or challenge you've had, something that you can be able to pick out during, from your parenting experience during the COVID-19 period. I see Cheryl, you are in the house. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much, Helen.
Yes, looking very lovely.
Thank you.
Yes, so I think we can start from there. And Karibu sana. Cheryl is a counseling psychologist by profession. Also, she's a mediator, and we have been waiting to just hear about this topic, to hear what you have prepared for us. So I'm going to ask us to kindly mute ourselves. So I think I have muted everybody. Okay. Okay, so I have muted everybody, but I kindly request that you don't unmute as we're having a presentation session. And then Cheryl, feel free to continue from there. Karibu. Hi, Cheryl. I need to unmute you first, or you can unmute yourself. Yes.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Cheryl. I'm a counseling psychologist by profession. I specialize in marriage and family therapy, trauma and debriefing. I'm also a trainer and also a certified mediator. I'm happy to be here with you guys this evening as we talk about parenting, intentional parenting, post-COVID. And like Helen had asked earlier, how has the experience been for everyone? We have those who didn't have the opportunity to actually parent their children without any interruption. That is when we asked to stay at home. We've been given 3 months. I think it's been 3 months we've been at home now. And yet, most of us have been able to parent, and it's been quite an experience. So allow me to start my presentation, and I would like to start by sharing my screen. Are you able to see it?
Not yet, Cheryl.
Not yet? Okay, just a minute. I can't be able to see the app for option for sharing.
At the bottom of your screen.
Just a minute.
Okay. So as we wait for Cheryl, can be sharing how has your parenting experience been during the COVID-19 period? And feel free to share with us maybe a challenge you've experienced or a highlight you have been able to have. Yes. Yes, we can now see it, Cheryl.
Okay. All right. There we go. You can now see it?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Great. So my topic for this evening is intentional parenting post-COVID. And the reason why I chose that is because I felt like we've been forced to parent. Let me say that for so many people, it's not what we had expected. The season that we are in, we had not anticipated this season. And so we found ourselves at home with our children, and a lot of things have come out. And talking to parents and hearing what they have to say about the experience that they have had the last 3 months have made me realize that a lot of things have come out that they had not anticipated. They didn't know actually happen in their homes or happen with their children, and also everything happening around us. There are a lot of things that we need to start putting into consideration, even as we prepare to see how we're going to survive during this period. Because according to the Ministry of Health, according to WHO, they are encouraging us to start learning how to live with COVID. So if this disease is here to stay with us, what measures do we need to start taking to be able to make sure that we protect ourselves and also we're able to live our day-to-day lives? So I want to touch briefly on issues on parenting and what responsibilities parents have, and also the parenting styles that we have, and to be able to see and see what have we been doing, what do we need to change, or what do we need to drop in terms of how we parent our children. And as counselors, I know most of these, I know this forum, most of the people are counselors, and some of the issues that I will highlight will come into our counseling rooms, and we're also parents. So also see how to adjust or how to be able to connect well with our children, even as we continue to stay with them at home. So I will rush to my presentation, and my first question is, one of the things I want to highlight is ask yourself, as in, what are the responsibilities of a parent? So a parent's responsibility is to support and promote the physical, emotional, social, and intellectual development of a child from infancy to adulthood. That is what the definition of a parent is. And as we continue, I want to pose this question, and I would encourage us to continue with this debate in the chat as we ask ourselves, when do we stop being parents? If I can repeat that again, is when do we stop being parents? So we can contribute in the chat, and when you feel that it is time for you to stop being a parent. One thing to note is that your style of parenting can affect everything, from how much your child weighs, socializes, performs, to how he or she perceives herself. It is important to ensure your parenting style is supporting healthy growth and development, because the way you interact with your child and how you discipline your children influences them for the rest of their lives. This is one thing that we need to consider. And one of the areas from my professional experience is that the areas that we tend to, as parents, we tend to not really focus in, and that is the developmental stages of our children. That is the personality of our children. That is the intellectual level of our children. Those are important areas. If we go back to the first slide, the responsibilities to support and promote physical, emotional, social, and intellectual development of a child. So it is important for us to factor in those three aspects of our children, even as we raise them, and even as they grow, to be able to see them become the people that we wish they will become as they grow older. As I jump to the styles of parenting, some of the things that we have been we've been conditioned is that, for as long as you provide for a child, for as long as you give them the basic needs, that's all that they ask for, that's all they need. The rest will figure themselves out. And if I look back to the African culture and how most of the African parents have parented their children, some of these things that I'm mentioning are some of the things that you discover for yourself as you grow older. You get to discover your personality, why you do the things that you do, how, you are able to get to know how intelligent you are and the things that you can be able. They're not things that were nurtured as we grew up. So I want to jump into the 4 parenting styles that we have. And according to Diana, she came up with this typology of the parenting styles in the around 1967. And one of the things, she came up actually with the 3, permissive, authoritarian, authoritative. But around 1971, an involved and neglectful style of parenting came up as they did their research and discovered that they are actually children who are not being parented. So I will quickly rush through these 4 points, and hopefully that you'll be able to identify where you are in this and how you parent your children in these 4 areas. And I will start with the uninvolved or neglectful parenting. And according to what the word says, uninvolved or neglectful, it's exactly that. Parents who are not involved in their children's life in whichever way. They provide for the basic needs, but that's just it. They show little care. They're completely disconnected from their children. They don't set limits for them. They are not allowed to emotionally express themselves, the children. They don't support the things that the children get themselves involved in, be it sports, be it any extracurricular activity. They don't get themselves involved. And these children tend to feel uncared for, unloved. Some tend to be aggressive according to the research, and a lot of them tend to be quite detached because they were not able to connect, or the parents didn't connect with these children. And as we understand that our homes are the first environment that children get to associate with, that is on neglectful. Totally low support from the parents to the children. The next one is permissive, which most people call it laissez-faire, where it's easy. The parents are easy. They're very lenient. They're liberal. They allow full autonomy. They pay little or more attention to the children depending with the area of interaction. There are no limits. They are very inconsistent. And these children tend to mature very early. And one of the other disadvantages, according to the research that has been done, is that they lack guidance. These are parents who are, as you know, free, as in these are the homes that most children want to visit because there are no rules, there are no boundaries, because these parents allow the children, they say children are allowed to be. So children are allowed to do whatever it is they want to do. And that is permissive, which is one I'm sure you can identify, or you know, one area or one home that children are being raised in that way. The third one is the authoritarian. Most people will call it disciplinarian. And according to the African culture, I think this is one of the parenting style that was really, really exercised. And these parents are very strict. They are very strict and very conservative. They make decisions for their children, and they are demanding. They demand for structure. They demand that you follow the rules. It is my way or the highway, according to the authoritarian style of parenting. They talk to the children. They don't talk with the children. And one of the things that come out from this kind of this style of parenting is that the children don't get room for expression. They don't express themselves. They tend to be less confident. They are not free thinkers. According to research, most of them who have grown with this kind of parenting style. And one of the things that I want to highlight is that I'm not saying that this other one is better than this other one, but I want to highlight on the issues that and how these parents parent their children and the issues that also come out because of the parenting style that a parent chooses to adopt. The last one is the authoritative style. These parents offer high support to their children. They talk with their children. They give room for expression, and they get involved in their children's business and activities. They allow their children to learn from the mistakes that they make. They set rules and boundaries, and when they do so, these children, because of the interaction and the relationship that they enjoy with their parents, they tend to follow them consistently. These children who have parents have exercised this type of parenting are very expressive. They are independent, very assertive, and they are able to regulate their feelings because they have been taught on how to identify the feelings and the emotions that they experience along as they make milestones in their lives. So those are just the 4 parenting styles that have been discovered so far, and that most of us as parents have been able to adopt and use. You will find that you will probably have been using two of the styles in how you're parenting your children. So I will throw this to the chat and ask you people to identify where are you and which style do you think that your parents used to raise you. Let me finish with sharing this diagram. As I've mentioned, you can see the first style is the authoritarian style. Focused on obedience, punishment, over discipline. The authoritative style creates a positive relationship, enforces rules. And when we look at the permissive, they don't force rules. Kids will be kids, And the other one is that we find that the parents they don't provide direction, they don't nurture their children. So this diagram caught my eye, and I felt it's easier for us to be able to, the pictures tell a lot, and maybe we can be able to identify with at least one of them. Helen, I want to take a break there and see the conversations that are going on in the chat.
Thank you, Cheryl. Interesting conversation going on in the chat section. So people are commenting on various responses. Okay, my mind was, you caught me off guard there, so I'm trying to come back. Okay, so you had asked them when does parenting stop? So we've got responses on that as well. So here is one response. Parenting is a lifetime responsibility. My mother is over 110 years. Wow, that's interesting, Jocelyn. And up to date, she feels she has a say in my life. She wants to guide even on how I make personal decisions. So parenting is a lifetime responsibility, from Jocelyn. Okay, Mercy says, good evening all. I thought parenting ends when children become adults, but with 4 adults and 2 grandchildren now, I have realized that parenting is a lifetime experience. I worry about my adult children still, but I love the support, the rapport we have despite them being out there. Isaac says parenting ends after death. Okay, then Liz is saying, one never stops being a parent. I have adult children, one married. I am a grandmother. What I have realized is that the style changes. The responsibility is still the same. What changes is the mode of support that I give. And Rose says, good evening. I'm happy to be here. I take the comment that parenting has been forced on parents as a reflection of their lethargy of parents to take up their responsibility over their own children. So interesting comment here. It seems that as though it is no longer an exciting and fulfilling experience, it is a chore that many wish would go away. Lillian says, one stops parenting at death since it's a lifetime rule.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
A parent till death do us part. Okay, over to you, Cheryl.
Thank you very much, Helen. And it's true. And as you remember, when I started, I said in every developmental stage. So parenting never stops. I ask this question a lot when I am giving talks in regard to parenting. And one of the things that every time when I'm giving a talk and it involves teenagers, and I ask that question, one of the things they always say is that when I'm 18, you know, I stopped being a child when I'm 18. But parenting doesn't stop. And I like what one person has said, that it changes in every developmental stage that you get to, you get into. According to the Erikson stages of development, we will see that from infancy to 60 years, you find that there's issues that we navigate through every developmental stage in our life. And parents are there to support their children during those stages. So parenting ends at death. So like I mentioned at the beginning, and in regards to the topic is parenting post-COVID. And I want to highlight a few things that I would like us to, hopefully we will be able to identify with. Parenting during the lockdown. And one of the things that has come out strongly from the parents that I have talked to is that parenting is a full-time job. And most of them now are seeing what actually goes behind the scenes. If it is a stay-at-home mom and now the dad has been forced to work from home, now he's been exposed to the things that happen in their house, in their absence. And most of them, majority of them are appreciating the things that they're able to see their wife are able to do, the children are able to do, and realizing that it is a full-time job. And most of them don't even they can't even understand how their wife are able to juggle that, or the mothers are able to juggle that, and still, as in day in, day out. So it is a full-time job. That is one thing that has come out strongly. And the other thing that came out strongly is that parents wear different hats. The children have been at home since March. Most schools have, and also the government has been encouraging parents to be able to teach their children from home. So now we are wearing the hats of teachers. And the hospitals are saying that parents are not, the number of sick patients the casualty has reduced, meaning that parents are now becoming doctors also at home. So there are also those children who are their only children and they're home with their parents and they're not allowed to go out, but they still need to interact. So the parents have been forced also to become friends with their children and help them to be able to at least do activities that they're used to doing outside there with their friends. Parents have become entertainers. They are entertaining their children. I have watched so many videos of parents, older parents teaching their children the games that they used to play when they were younger, Kati, Bana, and all those other games that the older generation used to play. And one of the things, especially for those who have children in the formative years, one of the things that comes out that they do a lot is they have kisses. They tell on each other a lot. And so you're forced to be the judge and to mediate the issues that they present to you. Probably in a day, you may get even 10 to 15 to 20 issues, depending with the interactions and the sibling position that the children, according to their sibling positions, because the younger one tends to be the ones who, tell a lot. The other things that children have challenges and struggles. That is one thing that a lot of parents have been able to identify with, that the children actually do have struggles, that they have challenges that in their absence, they don't even understand how they've been able to manage to continue living day in, day out, and having not been present to support them in those issues. The other thing is that children are different and they should be handled as such. Why am I saying that? When I started earlier, I said that children are different, personality, and also intellectually. So you find that when you identify your child's strength, when you identify your child's personality, it is easier for you as a parent to be able to associate with that child. It is easier for you also to be able to know that the things that make them happy, the things, why they do things the way they do. Basically, understanding, even if they've come from the same womb, all of them, but they're different. When a parent gets to understand that, it is easier for him or her to interact with the children. So these are some of the issues that have come out during this period from parents who have been at home and doing this parenting job that they have not done for quite some time. Allow me to move to my next slide, which is also pointing out on the emerging issues during the lockdown. If I can take you back to when this pandemic hit our country, and there was this conversation around COVID, and we could see what is happening to other nations. One of the things that crept in was anxiety and fear. And during that time, we were able to settle in, we were able to lock ourselves in. And we took measures and did everything that was asked of us, not knowing it. The reason as to why was to be able to protect ourselves, not to be infected. And with this, a lot of adjustments in our home has happened. For those who had to work from home, they had to identify a corner, rules had to be read to the children, the agreement schedules had to be made so that everybody can be able to fit in and be accommodated. Unfortunately, for those who are not able to communicate well to their children, there was a lot of confusion. And these children didn't understand why this parent, all of a sudden, they're not leaving the house. So remembering that that has been their space. Probably you leave in the morning, you come back in the evening. So that space has been for the children. So now you're fighting over the TV, over the remote, you don't want noise in the house, everything is being eaten, you have to regulate, and they are used to that freedom. So there's a lot of confusion that came in with this disease. As you stayed home with your children, you're able to identify cases of indiscipline that you had not identified earlier. So you're able to pick, this is how my child behaves, and it's not in a good way. And these are the behaviors that I'm picking from them. And someone challenged me to pose this question to the group that I was going to talk to and ask them, now that you have been at home for this period and getting to know your child well, where are you? Are you the parent who have been saying that, their children the teachers are not being fair on their children? And indeed, you have identified that the complaints that the teachers have been making or the house help or the other siblings, indeed, it's true. That is how a particular child behaves. So it's just on a lighter note. I want to jump into the traumatic events that have happened. And they've been there before, but they have been on the rise during this period. Children are being abused, and they're being abused in their homes. And this is something that we've heard, we've seen, and it's unfortunate. And a lot of cases of incest have come out. A lot of violence, in our homes, domestic violence, verbal violence, that has been reported in our homes. There's been grief. Families are losing family members, and because of the measures that have been put in place, most of the people are not able to come and help family members grieve or friends grieve together. So it's a trauma as compared to other the previously how we've been able to handle issues around grief in our culture, in our African culture. There are families and their children who've been abandoned. There's a story that was aired of a family. The father was locked out. He's a single father who was locked out and out of town, and the children were left alone. And so the neighbors fed these children, and eventually the landlord couldn't allow them to stay, and he chased them out. So you can imagine the torture, the emotional torture that these children have had to go through because of the whole issue of COVID. Kidnapping is still going on, and I'm seeing a lot of caution, especially to parents, to be able to be on the lookout, because these are issues that are happening around us. There's a lot of stigmatization that is happening and will continue to happen around the issues of COVID. The families who've been affected by this, and other people around them, the neighbors, the friends, the world, they don't want to associate with them, and also keeping their children away. And of course, they are talking in their homes. And definitely, even after this, there's that stigmatization that will still remain because of the issue around that family was infected with COVID, so no one wants to associate with it. And a lot of talk is going around about the stigmatization, people who have been infected with this COVID. And because of all that, if we're not careful, we will end up with a lot of mental health issues after this period. Already we're experiencing them. But this evening, I want to highlight on how to be able to help our children, to communicate with our children, at least that they are not in the bracket of those who will be affected or who are being affected by this. And even if they have been affected, how are we going to help them to navigate through this season? So these issues are not, they're not small issues, they're big issues. And it's unfortunate that with everything happening, we'll still have to process some of these issues if they have actually hit our homes. So at this point, I would like to take a break and ask one question. As you're parenting your children, what measures do you take to ensure that emotionally they're taken care of? So still on parenting post-COVID, because we'll definitely have to continue parenting our children. So these 4 areas are the areas that I have identified, and I felt that I needed to highlight them so that we are able to see how we will be able to support our children and also our clients as we parent post-COVID. So parenting aspects post-COVID, and one of the things is the social interaction. And like we've been told, COVID is probably here to stay with us. So we need to start taking measures on seeing how are we going to be able to live our lives and also protect ourselves. And since I'm talking about children, a lot of things are going to change. So how we were socializing before, definitely it's going to change. So the social interactions that we are going to have moving forward as families with our children, have we really thought about that? We are waiting for tomorrow the 6th, eagerly to hear what our president is going to share in terms of the measures that were put in place. Probably the schools will be reopened or give a date, or I'm not sure, I don't know what he's going to say, but definitely the things that we are looking forward to hearing from our president. So in terms of socialization, how are you preparing your children? We have been told to wash our hands. We've been told to observe social distancing. We have been told not to body contact, no hugging, no kissing, and normally we would, our children will be, someone will pick up your child, they will kiss them, they will hug them, and those things now are things like we will have to, stop doing those for some time. Have you taught your children? Have you psychoeducated your children on, number one, on this issue of COVID? Have you been able to tell them in details? And most of us have children who are younger and they don't understand. They just think it's a phase that is going to end. What if schools we have to go back to school? How are you teaching your child to start taking measures of protecting themselves to avoid such infections? The other thing is that if schools happen to open, is it the school's responsibility to be able to do this, teach our children how to carry themselves, or it is the responsibility of parents to be able to prepare their children for that? And one of the things that came in mind, it was when I would visit a school, I would normally see the kindergarten children, they're always asked to hold hands when they're going to the toilet. So they hold hands at once and in a line. So it is a culture that they're used to. So that behavior will have to stop if they have to go back to school. The other thing is that the younger children tend to share things a lot. If it's water, if it's sweet, a lollipop, and all those things. Are you teaching your children now about the dangers of such behaviors? So it is important that we start to teach our children on how to start socializing differently, even as we prepare to start living our lives with the COVID with us. So it is important that you start teaching your child how to socialize, what measures to take. The younger one, the older one, and also understanding that some of these children are comfortable being at home. So how are you preparing them to start adjusting their mindset to going back to school? I will jump to the second point, which is academic expectation. Our parents and our candidates, if those who have sat in this session with their children, the teenagers, since it's family therapy, it's that there are those who are candidates this year. And we are not sure whether the exams will be done or not. So what do we need to start preparing psychologically? I think one of the things that is important is for us to start adjusting expectations in terms of performance. Because it's not everybody who is at home is actually studying, who is a candidate. Not every parent is able to provide the means that the government is asking for facilitation of continue to studying at home. So how about we start adjusting our expectations and also preparing our children, because there are those who had their mindset that I wanted to get this grade, I wanted to go to this school, and I wanted to achieve this. Probably the schools will not be reopened. Probably this year will just go like that. How are you preparing your child to ensure that this doesn't become a stressor for them? That they are able to understand that it is inevitable. It has happened, and we need to start learning how to adjust our expectations, adjust how the plans that we had, and just be, because I think now it's living one day at a time for us to survive. So there are those children, especially children who started school this year. And by March, they had also already adjusted. And so then March schools were closed. So if we ask them to go back to school, maybe in September, it will like starting all over again. So it's important that you start preparing these children. And also when you get to that point and they're not comfortable and you see challenges that are coming here and there, they don't want to go, they're regressing, then you understand. And don't try to force things with them as parents. One of the other things is the physical changes, which is evident. Children have been home, no activities, they're just sitting, and a lot of eating, and of course they're growing at a very high rate. So how are you preparing in terms of schools? If schools need to open anytime soon, have you started fitting the uniforms? Of course they have grown, they've added weight, some uniforms will not fit, some body changes that probably they're not comfortable going back to school, and also, other people seeing, the changes that they have been able to, are we making them feel comfortable and accept themselves the way they are? So a lot of this needs to be discussed as a family with your children. The last issue that I want to point out is the inclusive parenting. Since today we're talking about parenting, and when we looked at the parenting styles, we saw how different parenting styles are able to be practiced in our homes. But one of the things that I want to encourage is inclusive parenting in this way. With the issues that all families have been able to go through, it is important that children are allowed to sit in and air their views and express themselves, and also voice out the decisions that you're making as a family. a lot of economic struggles and challenges have been experienced, and mostly a lot of parents are cutting down on expenses, cutting down. Some actually are forced to go back to their parents' home so that they can be able to figure themselves out. So when you are making these decisions, or if you have to move to a new place because of one reason or the other, or maybe you have lost your job, because a lot of people have lost their jobs because of everything that is happening, have you been able to include your children in these conversations? One of the ways that you can do that is encourage family meetings. Sit down with your children, identify a day, sit down with your children and be able to let them know what is happening and the measures and the decisions that you're taking as a family. It will help them adjust faster, as opposed to when you just make decisions and you expect them to follow. One of the things that I wanted to come out strongly is the fact that children are also affected by the things that happen in their home. So it is important to also hear from them how they feel, what they would like to see done differently. So I would like to pose that. Helen, I don't know if there's any interaction that is going on in the chat.
Yes, Cheryl, a lot is coming in the chat section. I'm going to sample a few comments here and there just to be able to give the feedback. But one thing which has come out as, and you have highlighted, is the issue of blending the various parenting styles. And people are asking, is it possible to blend or to somehow adopt the various styles depending on the stages where the children are? In addition to that, let me see. Something else, the issues that we have been seeing during the COVID-19, just asking, have they been brought up by the COVID, or have they already been there and COVID has revealed that these issues have always been there? Okay, and where do we draw the line between control and parenting in the African setup, especially when you become an adult? And I think that's a good question, because as you have the parenting styles, maybe being able to know when are you becoming controlling, and when are you actually adopting a good way of parenting the child, and more so in our African setting. I think that's the feedback I'm getting so far. Over to you, Cheryl.
Thank you very much, Helen. I think allow me to respond to the questions after I'm done.
Okay.
Just a few slides remaining. I threw this in intentionally, emotional intelligence, and I wanted us to be able to look at this, and the question that I want to pose so that we can be able to find out where we are is, how often do we teach our children about the emotions that they feel? Do we help them to voice them? I have been able to interact with schools, and especially kindergarten schools, and also the lower primary, and also parents and teachers. And one of the things that I have really tried to encourage, because of the importance of allowing a child to grow emotionally, is to teach your children, our children, how to be able to identify their emotions. In the African culture, we were not allowed to, or it was not taught to us. So you would feel things that you will not be able to know how to identify them. So as we go quickly through this list of emotions, I want us to be able to understand that children also feel these emotions. And it's important as parents, as caregivers, to be able, as guardians, to be able to teach and help our children identify them. So when a child comes and says that they are sad, or they come and try to express themselves, and you, with the intelligence, you're able to know that is sadness. That is this child is being joyful. this child is feeling wounded or abused, you know, it is important to be able to learn these emotions, help children as they grow in each developmental stage to identify the emotions that come out. That is a challenge that I want to throw there. I wanted to throw it to parents. I also want to throw it to the caregivers and also to my fellow colleagues that, you know, it is important from the youngest stage, because when they get to identify, it will be easier for them to communicate, even if something happens to them and it's something that they have been told or have experienced previously. They will come and say, actually, what I'm feeling, I am feeling burnout, let's say, for example. And it's true, because a lot of things are happening, a lot of responsibilities given to our younger adults, our teenagers, and it's true, they get overwhelmed. So it is important to understand that they also have these feelings. They need to associate with these feelings, and it is necessary for them to voice them and actually name the emotion that they are feeling at a particular time because of a particular issue that they have gone through. So it makes it easier for you to be able to support them, having understand exactly what it is that they have brought out. So that was intentional, me throwing this inside there so that we can be able to identify and challenge ourselves as far as naming our emotions and teaching our children how to name their emotion is concerned. Lastly, I want to highlight a few parenting strategies. And also in the chat, if you have any parenting strategies that you have been able to apply and it has worked for you during this period, kindly share with us. The topic is intentional parenting. And the first point is highlighted in red, because if you choose to be intentional, then everything else falls into place. As a parent myself, I know it is not easy to parent children, and especially when you have children in different developmental stages. And so one of the things that has really worked for me is choosing to be intentional. And with every child and with everything that I do, it gets overwhelming, you get burnout, and you struggle with a lot of things that you don't yet know or identify because you've not reached that level. So these are just a few strategies that I picked out that I wanted us to see and to be able to identify with. Let go of guilt. Like I said, most of us have been literally forced to parent our children. So the things that we have discovered we were doing wrong, or there are things that the issues that we have discovered in our homes that if we were present, these children would not have gone through those issues. So maybe some parents or caregivers are going through a lot of guilt and feeling like, I wish I had. But since we are choosing to be intentional, how about we start letting go of guilt? And the other thing is seek support. Seek support, those who have been there before you, to the professionals that are there. It is important to seek support, and it's okay to seek support, because one lady I remember told me that there's no one is a tree of knowledge, and parenting is a very challenging area, and you can completely mess your children, or you can do your very best, and at least they can become something in the society. Seek support, it is okay. Laugh a lot. There's a lot of stress going around, and it's important for you to let it out. And one of the things is that show your children that it's okay to enjoy life. So laugh with your children, do activities that make you laugh. I appreciate the fact that so many things have come out to entertain us, and together with the children. And there's TikTok videos, the funny memes, there's so much around us. How about you share them, show your children that side of you, and laugh together and laugh a lot. It is very therapeutic. Be your best. It is important for you to be your best. Put your best foot forward every single day. Be intentional about each and everything that you choose to do as far as parenting is concerned. It will make it easier for you, and it will seem a little less stressful if you choose to be intentional and always do your best with the children or those who have been entrusted to you to be able to guide them. I will just go through the very fast through these ones. I know, build traditions, learn to apologize. We all make mistakes, including you as a parent. Give responsibilities, practice patience, encourage and reward your children for each and everything that they do. If it's a milestone, if it's something that they've struggled with, encourage, reward them, make honesty a priority. And above all, active listening. When you listen, they feel heard, tomorrow they will still come and they will share something with you. So I wish to end there as far as my presentation. It ends there. Thank you very, very much. But before I hand it over to Helen, I just want to point out that there's a lady who had asked about, parenting on different stages, but there's someone who had earlier mentioned that as they grow older and each developmental stages, you have to parent differently. And this is in regards to also the personality of your child, the strength of your child, the intellectual level of your child. Some of those things that I have highlighted, you should be able, as parents, we should be able to identify them. And that is what is going to help us to be able to parent intentionally our children. It is possible for you to blend the parenting styles depending with the ages, the developmental ages, and also the exposure that your children have. So I think some of those things matter a lot. And the parenting styles is a broad topic. It's a broad topic, and the effects that contribute to how you do them differently and how it affects the children. So maybe if Helen will allow next time, we can maybe go into details about the parenting styles. So thank you very much, Helen. And thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much, Cheryl. That was a wonderful, brief summarized presentation that you've done. We really appreciate. And at this point now, we can go to the comments and the feedback that I've been getting, which is really, really amazing. And I think we can start from that point of asking. So we have focused on the challenges of abuse happening in the home, but some homes have had happy, good times where the mom has been there, the mom has been cooking for them and loving the children, and they have bonded. And from that perspective, just sharing on what will be the experience, or how do you prepare the children when they go back to school to eating the food from school, when they have been used to eating very nice, fresh food from home all the time, every day, sleeping comfortably, just the whole comfort they have experienced from home, now moving back to the school environment or the normal other life that we were used to before COVID period. Yes.
I would like to call on Alfina to be able to respond to that. Alfina? Can you hear me, Alfina? Okay. Okay. I think when the schools are open and certain measures need to be taken seriously because of everything that is happening, and of course, letting our children go, we're going to expose them to a lot of things. And one of the things that has come out strongly is that because of confining our children, so a lot of exposure to diseases or infection has been reduced because of that, and also adhering to the cleaning measures that we've been asked to. So one of the things that will happen definitely is that the schools will have to take, like what the restaurants are being asked to do, strict measures on that. So if parents, maybe the parents who will choose to pack for their children meals, or depending on how you're used to do previously, with everything happening around us now, you find a better way that works for you to be able to ensure that your children are protected, your children stay safe, and also they don't get to lose out in the things that they were used to previously. I don't know whether I've been able to respond to that question correctly.
Yes, Cheryl, and even as we go on, just to open it up, we know we have various people who are in the same line of psychology and counseling with us. So even to open it up to more people to come in and weigh in on the feedback we are going to give, even to allow Cheryl to catch a breath. But even the feedback I'm getting, someone is saying, I have two teenagers, one in Form 4 and the other in Class 8. The Form 4 one says if he has to repeat, he's not willing to go back to school. But because he's 19 now, he has to repeat Form 2 for other issues. And let me see, and feels that he is too old to be in school, and especially if he has to repeat the year all over again, it's challenging. That is a parent who is raising that concern. And maybe I want to also welcome, I see various people in the session, I don't want to call names, but I also want to open it up to anybody who may be able to just give feedback to the parents who have that kind of a dilemma within their homesteads and wondering, how do I manage this issue of children, the education and candidates, that kind of a thing. Okay, let me see. Someone is saying parenting post-COVID will be so dysfunctional due to pressure that will come forth as parents and teachers will try to catch up with life. There will be a lot of defense mechanisms, especially displacement due to pressures that will be taking place in various institutions. More psychoeducation is needed in various settings to make sure children will not be affected much because they will be most vulnerable to displacement. And I think this is where we come in as professionals and asking ourselves, can we be able to think through what likely scenarios we will be experiencing post-COVID? And as a result, what measures can we put in place? Who needs to be equipped in what place? So if we think there'll be pressure, then how do we come in as counselors, psychologists, to alleviate that pressure, or to help the people who are in that context be able to deal with the pressure that might be arising from that scenario? Cheryl, do I continue or we take those?
Let me take those ones. The young man, the candidate, one of the things that I mentioned is that the academic expectations, and of course, candidates are going to be affected by this a lot. And like that young man, as in repeating is not an option for him. So how can the parent start preparing him psychologically? And also, if there are other issues that will, like what she has pointed out, that will make him go back to Form 2, you can imagine the psychological torture that that young person is going through at this particular time. So there are other options. There are other options that the parents can choose to adopt instead of, if the exams will not happen this year, there are other options that the parents can adopt to ensure that he gets his certification and he gets his education, but he doesn't have to go back to the school and go back to Form 2. And it's probably just not him. The others who children needed to be supported intensively for them to be able actually to perform. And that is not happening right now. So how are they preparing those children to be able to ensure that even if they go back to school, they're able to at least get out of something that will work for both the parents and the children, because of the parents, if it's class 8, the parents will have to look for a school for these children. I don't even know also whether the government is going to lower the marks for entry in high school and also in campus. So uncertainty, those are areas that we are uncertain about. What I would ask the parents and those who are affected by this in terms of the children being in candidates this year is that they need to start having these conversations with their children right now and support them where they need to support them, but also allowing them to know that it is not their doing, but with such situations, some things are, a lot of adjustments will have to be made to ensure that they continue to live their normal lives and also get the opportunities that they had hoped for themselves in the future. I don't know, Helen?
Thank you, Cheryl. I realized I had muted everybody and I had removed the option of unmuting yourself for purposes of disciplining the session. And now you can proceed to unmute yourself if you want to make a comment. Also, you can raise your hand and I can be able to call upon you. But Cheryl, I'm getting feedback. This is one of the best sessions people have been able to have, and they're really appreciating how you've been able to present the session. Okay. Someone is clarifying their question and saying the person in Form 2 doesn't have to go back to Form 2, but he had to repeat Form 2 or in the past. Okay, so the same child is now in Form 4 and they don't see themselves having to be delayed once more again. Okay, I think that thank you for that clarification, Helen. And on the issue of just the whole comfort at home, Sister Muya is clarifying that packing food may be possible for day scholars, but boarding schools have to eat the same food. How are children being prepared to transit from their home comfort zone meals to maybe unpleasant meals in boarding schools? And then someone else is asking, there are adult children with their own families who are moving back to their parents' home due to economic challenges. What psychological dynamics are at play in these scenarios? Jane is saying, thank you, Cheryl. I run a school, early years and primary school. The new norm way of life, which will be required to meet when schools reopen. I heard you ask whose responsibility will it be to ensure school-going children adhere to these regulations, for example, washing hands, not sharing items. Are the parents responsible or will the schools be held liable? I think that's a very good question. Okay, now I also want to ask, Alfina, I can see you. I don't know if you're able to unmute yourself and go ahead. Or let me just call Pauline. And I've seen Pauline, I've seen Professor Gashuda, I've seen Faith. So I've seen all of you. But I was yes.
Helen, allow me to respond to this last question about, and I can ask the others to be able to respond to the other questions, whose responsibility it is. And when I mentioned, parenting post-COVID, and when I brought in the challenges of social interaction, it was to be able to challenge the parents to take that responsibility. Because as you need to prepare, as parents, we need to prepare our children now from home. So by the time the schools reopen and we have to send them out and back to school, then it is something that it has already been instilled in them. So they know that, touching hands, sharing cups and sharing sweets and sharing, and the other things that they share together, especially the lower classes, it is good to share, but because of what we're experiencing, we're not supposed to share because you don't know whether you can infect the other person with even the normal cold, So it is us to start educating our children, psychoeducating them, preparing them, instilling these new measures before they are actually out. They start going. We actually send them back to school, because we cannot put this burden with the schools, our learning institution. It will be too much for them. Imagine the number of children that are in a class, observing social distancing, ensuring that they do this and that, just to avoid exposure. It is going to be overwhelming to the schools. So my suggestion, it will be for parents to be able to start doing that at home. It will be easier for the institutions to be able to regulate that if the child has already been prepared and understand the dangers or the areas that they need to be careful in school. So thank you very much. Back to my colleagues to respond to the other questions.
Thank you, Cheryl. I see, Faith, your hand is raised. Go ahead. I hope you can unmute yourself. Okay, yes.
Yes, I can. Thank you, Helen, for this opportunity. And thank you so much, Cheryl, for this very insightful presentation. I think you have opened up a very big discussion, some of which even us as psychologists, we might not be fully responsible for. For example, what will schools do to ensure, the social distancing and the washing of hands? So I feel like this is a conversation that ultimately involves more people than just maybe the parent and us psychologists. What I wanted to comment on was to just add on to the people who are asking about blending the parenting styles. So I wanted to clarify something and say that the authoritative, which Cheryl is saying is the ideal, is actually a blend. You see, so on one side, we have very high control, which is the authoritarian. And then on this other end, we have the permissive one, which is the permissive one, which is a lot of support, which makes it permissive. The neglectful one, as Cheryl said, in fact, initially it wasn't there. So then the authoritative type is already a blend of some level of control and discipline and some level of support. So I just wanted to say that. Otherwise, thank you very much. Even for you, Helen, and Debbie on the chats, you're all doing a good job.
Thank you, Faith, for your response and your feedback. And thank you, Debbie, for helping me with the chat section and being able to help me balance with that. I had seen a comment about the same from Professor Gashuda, and I'm also seeing Ruth is bringing a point about the adult children, and I would want to have someone come in and respond to this. Ruth is saying, I almost moved back home, though I am single. There was a mix of anxiety on my part on the image in quotes, of being almost helpless. There was a sense of burden in it. Some family members were very excited on the possibility of having me at home every day. I had to make a decision, consulting my parents, and we agreed I don't move back home, and they support me until I am out of my situation. The adult children should expect a mix of reactions. So there are children who are children, but they are adults. Yeah, and they maybe felt due to one issue that they wanted to go back home, especially due to the issue of financial economic challenges. So I think just someone to come in and help to bring some clarity or share more on that. Pauline, are you able to come in? Pauline Wanje, I think I'd seen at some point.
Hi, Helen.
Hi, welcome.
Hi, Cheryl, and that's good work. First, I wanted to respond to that parent who has a candidate who feels like he'll be too old to do his KCSE. And then the one thing that this parent needs to do is validate those feelings, because it's okay to feel that way. He repeated Form 2 and now he might be forced to repeat another year. So validate those feelings, empathize, and then help him to find meaning. So if he doesn't want to go back to school, if he was to repeat the year, what does that mean? Work with him in finding, with him or her in finding meaning, what that means to his dreams, career dreams, what that means to his academic. Work with him, because if as a parent you advise on the best way to go about it, he might not comply. So that's what the one thing I felt. And the other thing is kids have eaten nice food. In fact, my Form 1 girl refused to eat ugali since she came home. and she has completely refused to eat it because I think she doesn't like the ugali in school. But I've been preparing her because once she goes to school, that's what she might need to eat. So as Cheryl says, prepare them, prepare them, prepare them. The adult children who have come home, again, help them to find meaning. What does that mean to you? Now that you are stable at some point, and now that you are relying on your parent, what does that mean to you? Where would you want to find yourself in the next 5 years? Work with them, finding meaning. Okay, you're home. What do you think you can help in contributing to the welfare of the family? Because again, we don't want to impose our values on them. We don't want to impose our ideas on them. We want to hear from them how they expect life will look like now that they are home. Thank you, Helen, and thank you, Cheryl, for good work.
Thank you for Pauline for that comment. Okay, someone to come and share more about the adult children, and I also want to open it up to just be able to hear some feedback on that. For families where children have been able to, and I saw earlier on some people saying that they have been keeping tabs with their adult children and their grandchildren, so just being able to hear how those dynamics have shifted and how they are playing outside there. Yes. And as we respond to that, for anyone who wants the notes of the presentations, you can send 100 shillings to the number I've put in the chat sections. It's 011, which is the new Safaricom line. So 011, 0, then three ones, three times, then 630194, and then you also indicate your email address. Anyone
Helen,
who wants to come in? Oh yes, Mr. Kimani, welcome.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure
evening.
to have this kind of presentation at this particular time. I want to weigh in on about three things. One of them, and I know Faith has articulated that position very well about the parenting styles, and Sherry has also said about it very well. But there is something that we can blend in, and I want to just share one slide here, which talks about the phases of parenting. Even as we do the parenting styles, we look at the phases of parenting and the way they go. I hope it is clear. Helen, is it clear? Okay. All right. So we are talking about from 0 years to 6 years, you're just a commander. And this is where we keep on telling the children, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And as we go along from 7 to 12 years, we become a coach. And a coach basically gives instructions, corrects, and is able to give guidance. And here some parents fail a lot, and that is why we have the truancy or the rebelliousness from 12 years, 13 years, and above, because you never coach them well. Some of us have just been teleparenting. Others are helicopter parenting. Others are the parents who are called PAP. They are present and absent at the same time. Present, absent parents, PAP, PAP. Sometimes they just see you in the evening, or maybe you find them asleep. And the next morning, they can see the car is there because you're still asleep as they go to school, something like that. So we may not be able to coach well. So even if you are on those other parenting styles of authoritarian or permissive, without coaching, you are going still to lose it. And this is why Faith is talking about branding it. Then 13 to 23, you are a counselor. And when we are having the teen presentation the other day, we need to be like a counselor. Who is a counselor? A counselor is somebody who listens attentively. And if you go to basic counseling skills, you will remember that we have these skills that we call listening skills, responding skills, and all of them. And a counselor is supposed not to be judgmental. A counselor is supposed to guide as well. And this is where we have that kind of a big problem. You cannot be guiding or counseling when you are very, very authoritarian. However, you cannot also be very submissive, because that is not what we do for our clients. We still try to focus. Then you get beyond 23, 24 and above, you're just a consultant. The child will come and tell you, I want to marry. And you say, are you ready? Where is the venue? Who is it you're marrying? How do you intend the marriage to be? And all those kind of things that go along that one. I want to buy a car. I want to build. I want to buy some land. You consult each other. This is what we call adult to adult relationship. Your children are adult and you are an adult, and that is why you consult. And coming in what Helen, you are saying, how is it for us who have adult children? I know I have adult children. One of them actually does not stay with us. She is staying on her own. She came the very first week when Corona was announced, and then she has gone back. And we keep on consulting each other. But what I have seen is that they are very careful. They are saying this Corona thing is affecting people of old age, 50 and above. And therefore they are here telling me, are you wearing your mask? Are you whatever? Actually, they are almost like giving to me more than I'm giving care to them. And it is a very good kind of interaction that we are having. So instead of it being a little bit intimidating that they are here, or them feeling that they are a little bit isolated, we are boarding in very well. Maybe others will share their own experience. And then the last one, when you get 60, 70, 80, whatever, you just become a caregiver. And that is why you see sometimes you are unwell. Your mother who is 90 years, 85 years, 70 years, they are more concerned. They get a little bit worried more than you are worrying yourself. Sometimes they even want to come and stay with you. So I just wanted to share those faces of parenting with the audience here. Then allow me to weigh in on something that, how will it be like when these students go back to school? And I know we as parents have got a very, very crucial role here to play. And this is about the time that teachers, the school owners, as well as the parents will have now come into one. I hope the government will be able to rein in and be able to deploy a lot of counselors, because we expect that there will be medical issues. As we have said, yes, we have kept very clean. We are washing our hands. We are ensuring that the plates are clean and everything else, and the environment around home is very, very clean. When they go back to school, we expect there will be a lot of medical issues which will come as a result of the long layoff. You expect issues of diarrhea, you expect issues of coughing, you expect issues of a few injuries here and there. And this is about time that it is not going to be left alone to schools and the teachers. We need to partner very well with all this and prepare as counselors. Perhaps we'll be called upon to do some concept papers about how do you integrate this particular learning. How do you prepare the candidates for either missing a whole 1 year, number two, being rushed if there is going to be a crash program. We really don't know how it is going to work out. Or how do we keep even this issue that it has been said of distancing, not children sharing things. The secondary school may understand, but I've seen the lower primary school, sometimes you buy a lollipop, it is hidden because students or the kids want to go and share it in school. So even for the day scholars, these things are going to be with us and we need to get ready for that. We may also face issues of the children having rebellious behavior because perhaps for the permissive parents, and even most of us, we have not been very, very hard on them because times are also very hard. We don't want to be to increase the challenges that they are facing. But when they are now told this is time to sleep, this is the time to do this, rules will be a little bit problematic to obey. And then lastly, the issues of COVID will not go away. Coronavirus will still be with us here until maybe a vaccine. I doubt whether it will just vanish in the air the way it came. So you may have some issues like mass hysteria. I know it has been abolished, the use of that word psychologically. And those are the things that we need to really care about. And we as counselor psychologists, I hope we are getting ready to tackle these issues. Over to you, Helen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gidongo, for that very good feedback and insight on some issues we might be able to experience in the future and even how to prepare with regard to them. I don't know if I think I had seen a hand raised earlier on by, is it Isaiah and Jero or somebody? I don't know if you're still there, can make your comment or your feedback. Cheryl?
Yes, Helen.
Any feedback or comment you want to make at this point, even as we are winding up?
Well, as we wind up, I would like to respond to that question that was asked by Moneki about, because of the economic challenges, you find that some people are going back to their homes, and they're going back with their families. So of course it's going to be, it's definitely challenging. And of course there are a lot of psychological issues that they are experiencing at this particular time. Nobody ever wants to go back home and to be housed by their parents and also together with their children. So as we discuss about parenting and also the dynamics of that are coming out in all this, is that now this is a child who has gone back to the parent, and definitely they will have to be parented in that house. And as that is happening, they'll also have to parent their children in that particular home. So of course, a lot of conversations need to happen around what they are expected to behave or how they're expected to do their things, because that is not their environment. And of course, grandparents being part of helping you as the parents to parent these children, definitely there are a few things that you will have to loosen up and accept that these children are under their grandparents' roof. So when issues come out that you are not comfortable with, it is important that you're able to communicate that with your parents in the absence of these children, because you are the child there, these are grandchildren there. So a lot of freedom is allowed in such environment. But also a lot of psychological support is required from the parents of these parents to be able to support their child who probably is not sure of how long they will be there or when they will be able to go back and give their family the life that they were used to. So as I pointed out, post-COVID, a lot of psychological issues, mental health issues are going to come out. And the important thing that a lot of us need to have around us is the psychosocial support. With that, a lot of families will be able to stand. And when I mentioned that it is important to seek help, it is okay, because we were not prepared for this season. So the things that we have promised ourselves for the year 2020 have gone down the drain completely. So it is okay to readjust our mindsets and realize that this is the situation. How best can we make use of what we have, where we are, and also try to better ourselves, even as we anticipate the next step that the government is going to take, and also that we are going to take for ourselves as we continue, because it is living one day at a time. And when you get to recognize that that is where we are, that is the option that we are left with right now, then it will be easier for us to make short-term goals instead of those long-term goals that we normally do at the beginning of the year. So my request would be to allow ourselves to be taken care of, if that is what it has gotten us to. Allow others to be able to step in. Open up and let's talk about the challenges, the issues that we're experiencing because of everything that is happening around us. Let us support each other so that we are able to come out of this and come out strong and continue living our dreams that we had been able to set for ourselves. I think that is what I can respond to as far as that question is concerned. but realizing that it's never easy for anyone to pack their bags and pack their families and go back to their parents. So yeah, I think that's what I can respond in that question. But thank you very, very much, Sagidongo. Thank you very much for highlighting that. Like I mentioned earlier, a parenting style it's a broad topic, and maybe given an opportunity later, we can be able to expound on that and understand in depth what it is all about. So thank you very, very much for those who have been able to sit in, and it's been wonderful. And I wish you all the best, even as we try to figure life through this season of COVID. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. I want to also come in with some comments I've seen and some questions I've seen. I may not be able to respond to them, but in case you're here, and Mr. Gizongo has mentioned a little bit on the same, and he has mentioned about teachers, and somebody earlier on was asking, okay, let's try and have all of us muted. So someone earlier on was asking for the teachers, who is responsible or who is taking the responsibility of preparing them for children when they go back. And even I also want to ask if there's anybody who can give feedback on that. And Mr. Gizongo has challenged us to be able to see, in case we are called upon to prepare concept notes or even to make presentation to such groups of people on the dynamics post-COVID, I think we should be prepared for that. And Ruth Lewa is saying, I have an 11-year-old daughter with cerebral palsy and in class 6. COVID has allowed us to do the much needed physio and occupational therapy she needs as she grows so fast. And above that, we are rethinking what education means for her for now and also in the future. That's a positive thing that has come from the COVID experience for some parents. So I know I'm being asked if I can organize about teachers, and I don't want to comment on that one because I don't know if I'm in that place to do that, but I know somebody here who could be in that position. Mr. Gizongo, I think you can also comment on that one. Who is in Professor Gashuda, who are some of the people who are in a place to be able to prepare teachers and to see how they can be brought together and prepared for the psychological aspect of receiving children. And even right now, we have some people, I've seen issues of parents maybe who have been challenged on how do we continue providing education for our children, the e-learning system, and they are having challenges of economic challenges. So those discussions, at what point and at what level do we have them? Yes.
Helen, we have a committee and the Umbrella Association that deals with the curriculum development and other sorts of training. Professor Gashuda is a chair, and I know we have not discussed this, but I can give her that opportunity. Maybe she can just tell us what is in the mind, because if we are able to utilize that committee of only 4 people to prepare maybe a concept that can be shared across board with all the counselors, because we can, counselors are in Mombasa, they're in Mandela, and if we can be able to have one uniform thing to share with the ministry and maybe the schools associations at high school and primary school and even ECDE, perhaps that would create a niche for us and remove the burden for individual counselors from approaching the schools and from approaching the ministry. And we know how chaotic the ministry or bureaucratic the ministry can be in terms of actualizing that. But if we can be able to do that from a unified platform, we can at least get a hearing from the ministry officials. But if Professor is listening to me or is listening to this, she can articulate it a little bit better. Professor?
Hi, I want to move away from some noise here. And I hope that I'm being heard now.
Yes, we can. Go ahead, Prof.
Said is very useful. And because we had not talked about it, is coming out from this discussion. We are going to talk about it because James is part of this committee, the training committee, and 2 other people. And then we can come up with a concept. And the concept that we can now prepare the counselors so that just like James has said, it would really help for us to have a harmonized approach to preparing the teachers so that they can be able, or everywhere in the country, they can be able to respond appropriately. So what I can say is that I will invite the members of the committee, and then we can look at the challenge and see how we respond to this particular need, because definitely there is need for capacity building. So for now, I would say that we will sit down and we'll look at it, and Helen, we can tell you whether it is something that we can present in this particular platform. James, do you think it's something also we can present in this platform?
We can share a draft, and then it can be improved by the members, and then we utilize it to approach the relevant authorities.
Certainly, certainly. As an association, it's easy to approach the relevant authorities. And once we get the approval, I think the rest will be details. But the first thing will be to sit down and come up with a concept. So Helen will do, and then we can come back.
Prof, for that, and I know, and thank you for you, Mr. Gizongo, for being part of these sessions. And just to add that, in case you feel, I know both of you can be quite, you have many duties you have. So I know there are people who would be willing even to come and assist where you would feel you might require help, even in developing the concept or proposal. And I think we can continue engaging on that. So I want to wind up that particular point. Thank you very much, everybody who has tuned in this evening. And thank you very much, Cheryl, for that wonderful presentation. I want to wish you a good evening. Tomorrow, we have a chance to be able to network and to know more about who we are and where we are doing. So feel free to be able to share with us who you are, where you are, what you do, particularly with regard to counselors. So thank you very much. Have a good weekend and have a good night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.